In this video, we're going to rank the World Series of the 2010s from worst to best, based on number of games, closeness of individual games, and narrative. The 2010s were an exceptional decade for the World Series, with 5 7-gamers, only 1 sweep, and a ton of drama. Number 10, 2012. This is the second year of the Giants' even year bullshit, and it was easily the least interesting World Series of the decade. Game 1 was a blowout, but it did feature a 3-homer game from Pablo Sandoval. And then the Tigers' bats were pretty much non-existent in back-to-back 2-0 Giants wins. Game 4 did give us a bit of excitement as an afterthought in the 10-inning clincher.
Got him looking, and the Giants have won it all!
Number 9, 2010. This one was 5 games, none of which were all that exciting, but it was the first ever World Championship in San Francisco. And this was a fun Island of Misfit Toys version of the Giants.
Your buddy CJ Wilson, the left-handed starter for the Rangers, just tweeted, "See your beard real soon."
Sounds delicious.
Number 8, 2018. This was technically a 5-game series, but we got 6 games worth of baseball out of it. Not a great series, but that Game 3 was something else. Where do you even start with this one? Let's go with the bottom of the 9th, when this game could have ended had Cody Bellinger not been picked off first base with 1 out and a 3-2 count on Yasmani Grandal, who would walk on the next pitch. Bellinger would make up for it though in the top of the 10th by throwing out Ian Kinsler at home, trying to score on a fly ball to center. In the 13th, Eduardo Nunez tries to win the game by using Homer Simpson's boxing strategy. First, he gets upended by Dodgers catcher Austin Barnes on the stolen base. Then he hits this dribbler and gets spiked at first as he dives into the bag, but it leads to a throwing error that scores Brock Holt. In the bottom half, Nunez makes this amazing catch falling into the stands, but a heads-up Max Muncy tags and goes to second. But there's nothing Nunez can do to prevent this Ian Kinsler error that allows the tying run to score. After that, there weren't many scoring threats until Muncy led off the bottom of the 18th.
Muncy flies one in the air to left center.
Fight on, dear old Muncy. You'll be tattered, torn, and hurting once the month is done with you.
Nathan Eovaldi took the hard luck loss in this one, tossing 6 innings in relief in what was a lost the battle but won the war moment as he saved the Boston bullpen, while the Dodgers pen was fairly heavily taxed by this game. The Sox would drop 8 runs on that LA bullpen in Game 4 and then cruise to a championship, their 4th since the end of the Curse of the Bambino. Number 7, 2013. Okay, we're only at 7 and we've already gotten to a really good series. It's only 6 games, but it's a pretty wacky 6 games. This was a rematch of the 04 series, and after an 8-1 Game 1 blowout, it seemed like the Sox were going to keep playing the Biff Tannen to the Cardinals' George McFly. But the Cardinals would mount a 3-run rally in Game 2 and then lean on their dominant young relievers, Carlos Martinez and Trevor Rosenthal. Side note, for a brief period, Martinez's nickname was Carmart, for obvious reasons, but then that became the dealership, which I always thought was a terrific nickname. But I can't find any evidence of this nickname existing, so maybe this is one of those Mandela effect things. Anyway, it's much better than Tsunami. Game 3 is where this series starts getting a bit nutty with it. With the Cardinals up 4-2, the Red Sox mounted a 2-run rally in the 8th against the dealership. God damn it. They'd score 2 to tie it up. In the bottom of the 9th, Alan Craig, who was hobbled by a foot injury and could barely run, would knock a pinch hit double to put runners at second and third, and set up this.
Rounds 1, Pedroia makes the play, throw home, 2 out, over the third, it gets away, Alan Craig is going to come to the plate, here's the throw, he is!
The classic walk-off fielder's interference.
And there was much rejoicing.
In Game 4, the Sox would take a 2-run lead into the 9th. After another Alan Craig pinch hit, this was a single, by the way. Dude really could not run. The Cardinals would pinch run with Colton Wong.
Check on the runner, they pick him off! Oh, this game is over!
As bad as this is, and it's extremely bad, it's actually worse, because at the plate was Carlos Beltran, arguably the best postseason hitter of his generation. The Sox then took care of business in the last two games.
It hasn't happened at Fenway Park for 95 years.
Number 6, 2019. Our first 7-gamer on this list is a rare, boring 7-gamer. There's only one game that's all that competitive, but this was the first championship for the Nationals and the first championship in DC since 1924. And this one was unusual in that the road team won every game in the series. This was also a pretty big upset, as the Astros were a 107-win team, and the Nationals' bullpen was pretty busted. So Dave Martinez would lean heavily on his two aces, Max Scherzer and Steven Strasburg, as well as Patrick Corbin, who would start a game and pitch important relief innings in two. Luckily for Martinez, the bullpen wouldn't matter all that much, as 6 of these games were fairly or very lopsided, and the Pens would be reduced to mostly mop-up duty. Only Game 1 was close, and Washington would get the win in that one, with Scherzer laboring through 5, throwing 112 pitches and leaving with a 5-2 lead. They'd use Corbin for a solid inning out of the pen, and then white-knuckle it as Tanner Rainey and Daniel Hudson would give up 2 runs before Sean Doolittle would save it. Number 5, 2015. Someone in the comments on the 2000s video brought up the fact that the Mets played in 2 super exciting 5-game World Series losses. This is the sister series to 2000, and it's pretty great for a 5-gamer. Game 1 gets off to one hell of a start.
Escobar, and he swings and hits it into left center. Back at the track, it is dropped. Cespedes couldn't make the catch. How about that effort? Digging around third. Here comes Escobar.
The Mets take a 3-1 lead before the Royals knotted up in the 6th. Then the Mets take a 4-3 lead on a Buckner by Eric Hosmer at first. Then, with 1 out in the 9th, Juris Familia tries to sneak a quick pitch by Alex Gordon.
Gordon in the air to center. Back at the wall. This game is tied.
And it's time for free baseball. It's pretty shut down from there, and it becomes an old guy battle, with Chris Young and Bartolo Colon going 2+ innings each before Eric Hosmer atones for his error with a walk-off sac fly. Then the teams trade blowouts in games 2 and 3. In Game 4, the Mets have a 1-run lead in the 8th when a Daniel Murphy error, foreshadowing, enables a 3-run rally. And these are the mid-decade Royals, so any lead after 7 is game over. So it goes to Game 5, and it occurs to me that this has got to be very unpleasant for Mets fans to rehash. They could have easily been up 3-1 in this series, and Game 5 just feels cruel. Once again, the Mets have a lead late, with Matt Harvey dominating. Going into the 9th, he had struck out 9, walked 1, and given up just 4 hits. But he was over 100 pitches and facing the top of the Royals order for the 4th time. Terry Collins gets browbeaten by Harvey in the dugout and lets him take the mound to try to close it out himself. When he walks the leadoff man, you expect Collins to come out to get him, but he doesn't.
That's in the air to left. That Conforto's over his head, up against the wall.
2 batters too late, he brings in Familia, who allows an inherited run to score, but retires the side on 3 ground outs, and we go to extras. So in the 12th inning... What? Oh, am I forgetting something? It's just an RBI ground out.
Broken back. Cut off by right. Out, throw home. Royal tie game.
So for sure, Hosmer should have been thrown out here, but it is great base running. Knowing that Duda's arm at first was not super accurate, and that David Wright's arm was basically dangling from the socket at this stage in his career. And with a 3-1 lead, this is a great gamble, and it sure paid off. The extra innings are uneventful until the 12th, when the Royals blow it up after a Daniel Murphy error. Number 4, 2014. This battle between wildcard teams gave us a pretty great 7-game series. There are really only 3 exciting games in this one, though. Game 3 was a prototypical Royals win with an okay start, getting through 5 with a 2-run lead, and handing it off to Herrera, Davis, Holland. Game 2 was a lot tighter than the final score looks, with a tie game going into the 6th when the Royals exploded for 5, capped off by a home run by Omar Infante, of all people. But this series is all about Game 7. The Royals got to Tim Hudson in the 2nd, scoring 2 to tie it up, at which point the Giants pulled him, with Jeremy Affeldt getting out of the 2nd and then pitching the 3rd and the 4th. Helped out by an amazing play by Joe Panik in the 3rd inning, turning a hit into a double play. Then they just put the whole thing on Madison Bumgarner's shoulders on 2 days rest after pitching a complete game shutout in Game 5. And that was that. He completely shut down the Royals for a 5-inning save. The Giants got a run in the 4th, and that was all they needed. In 2014, Madison Bumgarner had one of the best World Series ever, throwing 21 innings, 34% of his team's innings in the series. Let's just reflect on how incredible of a World Series and postseason performer Mad Bum has been. In the wildcard era, or since 1995, only Curt Schilling in 2001 has thrown more innings than he did in 2014, and that by just 1/3 of an inning. If you extend that back to the divisional era, starting in 1969, only these 4 are above him. And by the way, look who has the lowest ERA of the bunch by far. And yes, I can hear all of the Deacon Philippi heads out there throwing a fit right now. And they're right, Bumgarner has nothing on Philippi's staggering 44 World Series innings in 1903. And on that note, are you ready for a fun fact?
You're not in the mood? Well, you get in the mood!
Okay, actually it's 2 fun facts. First off, pitcher Deacon Philippi managed a minor league team called the Pittsburgh Filipinos, which were named after him. I don't think you could get away with this today, naming a team the Filipinos. And I guess you couldn't really get away with it then, as the team changed their name after 1 season to the Stogies. Probably because of ye old woke mind virus. Second fun fact, Deacon Philippi is a distant relative of actor Ryan Philippi, who named his son Deacon after the old-timey pitcher. See, that was fun, wasn't it? Anyway, back to Mad Bum. Not just an amazing World Series that year, but an amazing postseason as a whole, where he set the record for most innings pitched in a single postseason at 52 2/3. And Bumgarner is the all-time World Series leader in ERA with a measly .25 in 4 World Series starts, as well as this 5-inning relief appearance, which very nearly ended disastrously.
Here's the 0-1. That's in the air to left center. That ball is down. And it gets past to the wall. Gordon is going to dig for third. A mistake in the outfield.
Just a horrible play by Blanco in center, and then it just gets worse and worse. I can't imagine what this must have felt like for Giants fans. It must have felt like they were kicking that ball around for days out there. A lot has been made about should the Royals' third base coach have sent Gordon, and let's face it, he's dead to rights there. Crawford cuts the ball off and is up and ready to throw as Alex Gordon is just getting to third base. But also, remember Hosmer's mad dash.
Leroy Jenkins!
Sometimes Leroy Jenkinsing it can work out like it did for Hosmer, but that was a different risk-reward calculation, making the last out at home when you're up 3-1 versus facing elimination. Still, the Giants were out there bobbling the ball all over the place, and putting some pressure on the defense maybe forces Crawford to airmail the throw. Either way, ending the series on either a play at the plate or going into extras would have been much more dramatic than a Sal Perez pop-up. At the same time, the only run ever scored off of Bumgarner in a World Series was on a Sal Perez homer in Game 1. Number 3, 2017. Obviously, this one is tainted by the Astros sign-stealing scandal, as depicted in this documentary on the subject. But this is still an incredible series. After a 3-1 Dodgers win in Game 1 behind a great Kershaw start, we get this crazy game. The Dodgers take a 3-2 lead into the 9th, but Marwin Gonzalez ties it up with a solo shot off of Kenley Jansen. Then in the top of the 10th, Jose Altuve and Carlos Correa go back-to-back to lead it off. But in the bottom half, Yasiel Puig would lead it off with a home run of his own, and then with 2 out, Logan Forsythe would walk and move to second on a wild pitch for Dodgers postseason legend Kike Hernandez.
Base hit right field. Here comes Forsythe. Throw by Reddick is not in time.
We move to the 11th, where George Springer would hit a 2-run bomb to put the Astros up for good, although the Dodgers would pull to within 1 with a Charlie Culberson homer in the bottom half. The Astros would get a 5-3 win in Game 3, and then Game 4 was a tense 1-1 game going into the 9th, where the Dodgers would go off for 5 to even the series. Then we get to this craziness in Game 5. Alex Wood had warned Clayton Kershaw that he thought the Astros were stealing signs. He and catcher Austin Barnes had been switching up their signs every 10 pitches. And Wood had pitched very well in his Game 4 start, allowing just 1 hit in 5+ innings. But Kershaw did not want to interrupt his routine, and he got torched in this game for 6 runs in less than 5 innings. So Dodgers go up 4-0 in this one, Astros tie it up with 4 in the 4th, Dodgers go back up 7-4, Astros tie it up with 3 in the 5th, The Dodgers go up 8-7 in the 7th, but in the bottom half, the trash cans were singing their sweet siren songs as the Astros hit 2 homers and put up 4 runs. They would take a 12-9 lead into the 9th. In the 9th, the Dodgers get a walk and a home run by Puig, and then Austin Barnes stretches a single into a double to set up Chris Taylor.
Taylor ties it!
But in the 10th, the Astros mount a 2-out rally with a hit by pitch, a walk, and then an Alex Bregman single to walk it off.
Here comes Fisher. Throw by Ethier. Astros win it!
Game 6 was a tense, low-scoring game that the Dodgers won to push it to a 7th, where the Astros would jump out to a 5-run lead and never look back. Well, until November of 2019, when the scandal would come to light. Number 2, 2016. Pretty cool when a series can guarantee the end of a historic World Series drought. The Cubs hadn't won since 1908, and Cleveland hadn't won since 1948. There are only 3 dramatic games in this series, but with the Cubs coming back from a 3-1 deficit to break the curse of the Billy Goat, I have to rank this among the best in my lifetime. After the teams traded lopsided wins in games 1 and 2, we get an incredibly tense 1-0 game 3. The teams would take turns stranding base runners throughout this one, highlighted by an incredibly psyched Justin Grimm escaping a bases-loaded jam in the 5th with a double play ball. Cleveland would take the lead on a pinch hit single in the 7th by all-time name guy Coco Crisp, and then ride their elite bullpen trio of Andrew Miller, Ryan Shaw, and Cody Allen to victory. Then, in Game 5, backs against the wall, David Ross and Anthony Rizzo would pick a weird time to debut their new slapstick routine.
It's Ross.
But it would work out as the Cubs put up 3 in the 4th and got a solid John Lester start. After Carl Edwards Jr. put a runner on second with 1 out in the 7th, the Cubs would go to Aroldis Chapman for a 2 2/3 inning save, even allowing Chapman to bat in the bottom of the 8th with a runner on third. It would work out as Chapman would dominate in spite of his disinterest in fielding his position. The Game 6 Cubs blowout then brings us to the epic Game 7, one of the best World Series games out there. Things looked pretty dire for Cleveland when the Cubs would take a 5-1 lead in the 5th, and Kyle Hendricks would retire the first 2 batters in the Cleveland half. But Carlos Santana would work a walk, which would cause Joe Maddon to go to the pen and bring in starter John Lester. And then, a play that I'm sure had Cubs fans saying, "Here we go again."
Has to hurry. Wild throw.
But then things get downright Bartman-esque.
It's Ross. A run scores. Here comes Kipnis. He's safe.
2-run wild pitch, and it's a ball game again. But David Ross makes up for his rough defensive inning with a solo shot in the 6th to put the Cubs back up by 3. We get to the bottom of the 8th, and once again Cleveland puts together a 2-out rally. An infield single by Jose Ramirez chases Lester, and Chapman comes in and gives up an RBI double to Brandon Guyer. And then Rajai Davis steps in. Yeah, Chapman's face says it all. In what I'm sure Cubs fans would classify as divine intervention, the skies would open up and force a 17-minute rain delay, which Anthony Rizzo would later claim to be the key moment of the game, as Jason Hayward called a team meeting and gave a rousing speech which propelled the team to put up 2 runs immediately after the rain cleared.
Zobrist stands a base hit. Cubs will take the lead.
But with Chapman done for the night, the Cubs would have to rely on Carl Edwards Jr. to get the last 3. He got the first 2, but once again Cleveland got going with 2 out, with Rajai Davis getting another big hit to put the tying run on and the winning run at the plate. But unfortunately for Cleveland, light-hitting Michael Martinez, who had come into pinch run, was their only option.
Bryant. The Cubs win the World Series! Bryant makes the play! It's over! And the Cubs have finally won it all!
Number 1, 2011. This was the messiest, sloppiest World Series you'll ever see, but also one of the best. It gets off to a great start with a tense 3-2 Cardinals win in Game 1. Then in Game 2, the Cardinals take a 1-run lead into the 9th. And here's where things first start getting sloppy in this series. After Ian Kinsler leads off with a bloop single and then steals second, Elvis Andrus singles to center. Kinsler is held at third, but the Cardinals botch the cutoff and Andrus gets to second, which allows the Rangers to then score both runners on back-to-back sac flies. Game 3 is a Cardinals blowout, with Albert Pujols making up for his error the previous game by blasting 3 homers and going 5 for 6. After a Rangers shutout in Game 4, we get another exciting but ugly game, which reached a zenith of absurdity when Tony La Russa brought in Lance Lynn from the bullpen to intentionally walk one batter, and then pulled him. So going into the 8th, tied at 2, the Rangers would load the bases with 1 out. When Tony La Russa, the king of bullpen platoon advantages, doesn't come out to replace lefty Mark Chipchinsky with a righty to face Mike Napoli, something seems off. And boy was it. La Russa had wanted closer Jason Mott up to face Napoli, but there was a communication breakdown between Tony and bullpen coach Derek Lilliquist, who didn't hear the command to get Mott warmed up. So the lefty stayed in and gave up the decisive 2-run double to Napoli, at which point La Russa went out to bring in Mott, who he expected to be warmed up by then, but once again, there had been a misunderstanding and Lilliquist had warmed up Lance Lynn instead. Lynn had just thrown 47 pitches in Game 3 and was supposed to be unavailable. So when Lynn showed up at the mound, Tony said,
"What are you doing here?"
What a way to blow a game. Then we get to Game 6, which is probably the most exciting game of baseball I've ever seen, but still sloppy as hell.
Let's slop 'em up!
The Rangers get the slop going in the second with pitcher Colby Lewis bunting into a double play, probably costing the Rangers a run. Then the Cardinals hand them a run as Matt Holliday turns an out into a leadoff double in the 4th.
Let's slop 'em up!
Then Michael Young is ready to get in on the fun in the bottom half. This allows the Cardinals to tie it up. Then we get this in the 5th, which leads to another Rangers run. And then Michael Young again in the 6th.
Let's slop 'em up!
The Rangers then walk Freese and Molina to force in the tying run. But Matt Holliday is ready to steal the spotlight back from Michael Young.
Let's slop 'em up!
And that's especially big for the Rangers pitcher Alexi Ogando, who immediately decides to throw a wild pitch. But they get out of it with no more runs scored. The Rangers then lead off the 7th with back-to-back home runs, then get a 1-out single. After Derek Holland fails to advance the runner on a sac bunt, Octavio Dotel throws a wild pitch to advance him anyway, and Ian Kinsler drives him in with a single. But that's all prologue, because now it gets
Really, really good.
with the Cardinals down to their last 5 outs in the series, trailing by 3. They get a solo home run by Alan Craig. That would set the table for the 9th, where a 1-out double by Pujols, followed by a 4-pitch walk to Lance Berkman, would set up 2 outs and a 1-2 count on David Freese.
Into right, well hit. Back at the wall, and it's off the wall. 1 run scores. Here comes Berkman. Freese has tied it.
Now you could definitely make the case that this was the ultimate sloppiness on the part of the Rangers. Nelson Cruz is not a good fielder, and there's no reason he shouldn't have been replaced by Endy Chavez, who had pinch hit in the top of the 9th. And Cruz was also playing too shallow when he should have been in a no-doubles defense. Ron Washington would later say this: Yeah, what difference would Endy Chavez have possibly made defensively? It's not like he had ever made any game-saving catches in the postseason against, say, the Cardinals. But this game was far from over. Josh Hamilton would launch a 2-run bomb that seemed like it would allow everyone on the Rangers side to save face. But the Cardinals would come back again. They get back-to-back singles to start the 10th, then Kyle Loesch pinch hits and gets a crazy bunt down that Andrus makes an incredible play on. After a Ryan Theriot groundout scores 1, Lance Berkman comes up. Now, David Freese was the MVP in this series, and rightly so, but Berkman had almost as good of a series.
In the air to right center. This game is tied. Going to third is Pujols. They just won't go away.
So, we go to the 11th, where Freese leads off the bottom half. And say what you will about Joe Buck, the ultimate Nepo baby of sports broadcasting, but this is a terrific call, a tribute to his late father's call of another epic Game 6, 20 years prior.
Into deep left center. The Metro.
We'll see you tomorrow night.
In Game 7, the Rangers went up 2-0 in the first, but like the 86 Red Sox or the 85 Cardinals, there was no way the Rangers were coming back from that Game 6.
What a team. What a ride. The Cardinals are world champs. in 2011.
Thanks for watching, and please be like Miggy here and give this video a like.